Welcome to the 1 Million Years of Joy podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Benaker, your host, and my intention is to inspire you to find more joy in your life through the stories from our guests and the science on joy and purpose. Brian, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today.
Well, I've been waiting for this for a long time, just in case you didn't know.
Well, I love the enthusiasm.
Well, it's not made up, it's all real.
So, Brian, can you share with us where your passion for movies started? And tell us more about all the wonderful things that you're doing with movies and more, and basically your early career days.
Well, I'm a movie whore, first of all. When someone sends me a movie, I have to watch it. And the reason why I have to watch it, because I know there's a lot of people that will not watch movies. So I'm always about those people who are working behind the scenes. You've got to give them justice for this, whether you like the movie or I don't like the movie. There's always someone that likes a movie that we don't like for whatever reasons. And I was always told this back in the early days. There is no right or wrong answers when it comes to movies. And that is true. Because you will find someone that will find something that a movie that touches them, and you'll find someone that absolutely hated that same movie just because they might have been tired. There might be they're distracted or something like that. And then so for me, the beginning goes back to the late 60s when I watched It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. It has every famous comedian in it, from Mickey Rooney to Milton Berle. I never knew that I would meet these people later on and we would become friends. It was a movie that was 3 hours and 15 minutes. And I remember watching the whole movie, laughing and being fascinated. And I don't even know how old I was, but even the intermission, it left a lasting impression on me. So when I got a chance to meet some of these people, the ones that were still alive, including the director's wife, that's an honor for me. I love to interview people from the movies, TV series, and anything like that, even when I have you on our future show. That's exciting for me because everybody's got a great story to tell, but they don't get a chance to tell it, do they?
Indeed. And you have watched, from what I've been reading, over 30,000 movies, and you have interviewed more than 64,000 celebrities.
Yeah. You see this notepad right here? That's just this year's the movies that I've watched. So between now and the next couple weeks, I will be grinding, watching everything I can to get it in before December 31st. I've been keeping track since 1992. Who else do you know who does that? The answer is I've not found anybody, even our critics. They will tell you what they've seen in the year, but they won't add up all the movies that they've seen. I found one girl who did it, but she watched a lot, but they didn't come close because they don't take on all these things. Me, movies settle me down. I get a chance to think about things when I watch it on the big screen, whether I'm going cross country to a movie theater or I have a private screening or I have a private link. And then I have to interview these people in this, and nothing makes me happy because I remember when I had to fight to get to interview. I remember I had to fight to get in to be there to talk to a George Clooney or a Martin Sheen or a Brad Pitt. Now I don't have that issue. Now their publicists come to me, and that makes me happy.
So how did you actually manage in the early days to be able to get the time of some of these amazing celebrities? What was your strategy?
Well, there wasn't. The one thing I always knew was I was going to outlast people. I was never going to be in competition with them because I was never syndicated. I started with public access. Remember when you had a VHS machine and you put it on channel 3? Well, the MPAA at that point, the Motion Picture Association of America, said the only reason you could get accredited to fall on these lists to watch movies, to do interviews, which they call junkets, was you have to have 5 directors. And she mentioned these directors, and this is in 1992. You got to have someone like a Steven Spielberg, a Martin Scorsese, and I forgot who the third person she said. How am I going to get these people to vouch for me? I don't know them. They've never met me. I'm not that actor. I'm not that director. But what they didn't say was I could do a public access show, me be the host and producer, and have the director of that facility do that. So I became the first in the history to be accredited by doing my own public access show talking about movies. So I've always done everything backwards, if that makes sense. And it worked. And I had an accreditation letter for years saying, welcome to the MPAA. And then once you fall on that list, the studios, the PR people start to reach out to you because you're real at that point. And that was like the highlight. Now, I didn't need that piece of paper to tell me I was real. I already knew I was going to get in. You just didn't know how you were going to get in.
And from all the movies you have watched, do you have some that are some of your favorites?
Oh yeah, I got a lot. Because when it comes to it, if I start off right away, I always thought this is a mad, 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 mad world, and one I talked about. And then you can go up to Jaws, you can go up to The Exorcist, you could go up to Animal House. This is still in the 70s. And then you can go from there. You start to get into Glory, Denzel Washington, But when you start watching these movies, Parasite, Get Out, all these things are really touching at one point. They leave a lasting impression on you. Whiplash, and they just keep coming. And that's one reason why I have my list of movies, because I've been filling them out because of all the movies that keep being sent to me. And imagine this, keeping track, and it's something that's good, I put a check next to it. Something that's okay, that's halfway decent, I put a slash next to it. Something that's bad, I put an X next to it, meaning I won't like this, I won't watch it again, but someone out there may like that. And that's how I determine things. It's almost like reading a good book. You're going to make the time to read a good book, right? That doesn't mean it's easy to read that book. Imagine if you got 20 books sent to you in 1 week. Add that up to a month. Add that up to a year. Sooner or later, you start keeping track. That's what I get sent to me, all these things. Imagine having to do that and watch movies and go to the events and be out there to do the interviews and never saying no. That's the other thing. I never say no to anybody because you just never know what's going to happen with that person. And that person will always remember that you took the time to interview them.
Tell us about your early childhood days. Was there the same passion that you have today for watching movies in your early days?
I had nothing to do with movies. No, I was going to be a disc jockey, which is what I was. I had nothing to do to movies because, I grew up in Connecticut. So when I moved from Connecticut to California, I got rid of everything. I was that one person that went with $125 and change, one way ticket, saying I was going to go to Northern California to be close to my favorite drum corps, the Santa Clara Vanguard in Santa Clara, California. Well, I never made it past Los Angeles, where UCLA is. And I started going to the movies because I didn't have a TV. And this is in 1987. And all of a sudden, there's 16 theaters there, all showing different movies. And I said, wow, they show all different movies. So I started going all the movies and seeing these things. And I couldn't keep up. And I didn't know that they had advanced screenings. I didn't know you could see a movie 2 months in advance if you were in print. Nobody told me these things. It's like a hidden secret. And so I started watching all these movies. And then I realized they were coming out Wednesday and Friday. I was like, wow, how do I keep up? That's why I started writing the list down. Because in 1991, I saw a lot of movies, but I can't tell you how many I saw. But from 1992 on, I can. And that's why I keep track till this day of how many movies I watched. Wasn't on the big screen. I put in the theaters as my caption. And the rest of them are on home video. So when I'm seeing between 702 movies to 711 on home video, meeting in your home, or links that are sent to me, I already know the number. And if I'm seeing between now 16 to 23 only on the big screen because going to the movies has changed, there's your numbers right there. It's easy to put together. And I validate all the stuff because I keep track of everything that I do.
And you started your career in the radio industry. Tell us more about that.
Well, I don't know if you ever heard this saying, we have a face for radio. Well, a lot of us, we weren't the best looking people and we were shy. But behind a microphone, you could be somebody else. Think of Howard Stern or Rick Dees or Wolfman Jack, these people who are icons. They help push something. They help break a record at that point. Now you have somebody like a Taylor Swift and a Beyonce. They don't need you to do that. But back in the day, they did. When I talked to Beyonce for her first movie, which was Austin Powers, the third one, that's when I met her. And remember, she was with Destiny's Child before that. So look where she is now. The two most iconic women in the world in the music industry. One of them I interviewed. The other one is going to be a friend because I'm always in Tennessee doing all the stuff that I'm doing. That's Taylor Swift and Beyonce. Look where they are now. So when I first interviewed Brad Pitt, and going back to a lot of these younger people who are where they are now, it's good to see where they charted at. And I love the fact that I can call them, they'll come on the show, or I'll say to the publishers, can I have so and so on between now and the next 3 months? Because we're always booked 4 months in advance. That makes me happy because I haven't forgotten them.
What is your biggest source of joy in your life?
Helping to promote people in the world of drum and bugle corps. The World of Drum and Bugle Corps is what started me off, marching with 128 members at that point. Now it's 162 members. These kids march from ages 14 to 22, and then they age out. So think of a high school or college marching band. That's some of my audience right there. And so they're all playing music. They're learning things. They're traveling only in the summer in the drum corps. During the football season for a college band, you only go to high school games or college games. If you're lucky, you have a band competition, which is now in Lucas Stadium in Indianapolis, Indiana. But for a drum corps, in 2.5 months, you will travel between 10 and 12,000 miles. You're on the road for 3, 6 weeks and two separate tours. That's how you grew up. So that was the one of the things that kept me going. So my tenacity and being consistent comes from the world of drum and bugle corps. And so from when it comes to the ages on my show, I always say I have the age of 3 up to 86, and I do because of the toy industry. Toys start from the age of kindergarten, babies on up. Marching in a drum and bugle corps or high school band, you can march in a drum corps until you're 86, and people have. See, that's where my audience comes from. Nobody else in the world I know has that audience except for IT 247. Jimmy Adams, who was just on my show Tuesday, his audience is from ages 0 up to 100. And I said, that's pretty good. I'll take ages 3 to 86.
I know you also have the Dreamweaver Arts and the Artist Ranch. Tell us more about that.
Well, it's all sustainable, eco friendly, and net zero. So, meaning when I go to the Consumer Electronics Show or I go to Inner Solar or the Electrify Expo, I'm finding great companies that people have never heard of. My scooter, if you ever go on my Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn or Alignable, you will see me with my electric scooter that was given to me. Okai Scooter Companies is the only one out of China that makes an e-bike and an e-scooter. My scooter is all white and it lights up as I'm riding. When it's pausing, it's pulsating different colors. I wanted that in general. I always want to be able to stand out in a different way. So finding these things, someone like a Jack Gillian who helped me get that, I'm always about promoting things. Usually I'm wearing an air purifier around my neck when I'm in public, but since I'm in the safety of my mom's house, I don't have to wear it. But it's one of these things, it's your own air purifier that kills COVID and SARS. So I saw the pandemic coming. I just didn't know what it was going to be, what the name of it was going to be. And I knew, starting in May of 2018, that we only had so much time before lockdown came. How do you tell that to everybody else? The answer is you can't. So you have to lead by action to show them you need to have fresh water if you live in California in case you have an earthquake. If you live on the East Coast, it's becoming more tropical area now. So for Dreamweaver and the Dreamweaver Arts and the Artist Ranch, all these great companies, all these great products, just like that painting behind you, will be on our property, showcasing them in a different way, whether you're artists or women empowerment, because it all started by going after and helping women in the world of dressage and the world of fitness. I saw them not getting any promotion on anything. And I said, I got to change that. And this is in '08. I came up with this concept. I knew I was going to have an all-female team, but I didn't know how many or where they were going to come from. I've got 12 co-hosts, all women. 7 of them are influencers now just by being aligned with what we're doing. Terry Marie, who's been with me for 9 years, I couldn't be prouder of the growth of where she came from, being in the world of fitness to what she's doing now. So when we go, she does all the red carpets for me, which is great. Linda Steele, one of the best trainers in the country, with a great worldwide company of what she does out of Chicago. Chef Rachel Roberts out of Houston, Texas. Angelica Robles, Jennifer Himes out of Tennessee. Morelia Corvos out of Nashville, Tennessee. That's just some of them they need. Nastasha Rumbos out of Miami, Florida. We got her in the Latino Grammys. She performed at Times Square. She's only 27. She uploads all my stuff so she could see all the backgrounds of all the numbers that we were doing on YouTube. She listens to me, and I couldn't be happier for the women. So think of me as the Wizard of Oz. I'm behind that green curtain telling everybody what they should do, and if they listen to become successful. Because of them, that makes me look even better, if that makes sense.
And what has been the biggest influence throughout your life that makes you come alive? I mean, I understand the importance of everything you have shared, but what is the origin or the spark that really brought you to do what you do today?
In the world of drum corps, and then in the world of the movies, because when I find a movie that no one has saw, like there's a Minnie Pearl documentary. You don't know who Minnie Pearl is. She was from Tennessee. She always wore a hat with a price tag on it. She really gets the credit as being the first influencer. And the documentary is great. But also her catchline was howdy. It's like they say y'all in the South. Well, howdy is what they also say. She tagged that in the 30s and the 40s. She was actually more popular than Lucille Ball. She never went to Hollywood. She didn't need to go. But everybody knew who she was in the world of country and around the world. So finding documentaries like that, being able to talk to that director, and if that person is still alive, that's what I love because I'm getting things that nobody else is getting. You've heard the song "I Will Survive" by Gloria Gaynor, one of the most iconic songs in the world. Well, she came from the disco area, but you don't know what happened to her afterwards. She's 80 years old. She's still around. She ends up having a documentary done on her. But what happened to her when disco ended? Well, she was still touring. She became more famous outside the US. She would go to Europe every weekend to promote and sing her songs every weekend from the East Coast. Imagine you and I going to Europe every weekend for 3 years. Think about that. These are two women. These are just the documentaries that I found, and I'm the only one that's seen them. So helping promote stuff like that gets me going because you don't do one and done. When you're doing social media these days, you've got to do an average between 5 to 7 posts and shares because everything keeps changing. If you're not doing that, you're not getting any traction.
And with AI that is becoming more and more prevalent in so many industries, including the media and movie production industry, what influence do you believe it will have?
Well, there's good and bad things about it. For me, as long as I'm doing my live shows, as long as I'm out doing the events like that, you're not going to be able to really duplicate what I'm doing because I'm out there and I'm staying ahead. And so, as far as being views, when I put all my stuff up on 13 different sites, I'm doing something that nobody else does. Most people think of going to an Instagram or Instagram Live or a TikTok. No, I put it up on all of these other things because I'm doing what I can do to stay ahead of everything. So as far as writing, I tell the people who write, well, AI can write something ahead of time for you and it can duplicate what you're doing. Do you really want that to happen? And for me, the answer is no. So you do your best to stay ahead of technology. You may not be able to beat it, but you'll be able to do different things to stay ahead of it, if that makes sense. So for movie reviews and more in Dreamweaver, we know the benefits of AI. We also know AI can be very, very bad because there's a lot of things that we don't know of.
But do you foresee that in movies that we will be seeing in the medium and long term will actually have more and more AI characters rather than real characters?
Oh, yeah. You could see that in Avatar, James Cameron's film. You're going to be able to see that. So for me, who's never been interested in acting, my job is to help promote those actors. I feel bad for those actors, which is why they went on strike. Once you've given into that or given your image away, how do you reclaim that? It's just like someone stealing your identity. How do you get it back? What's the difference between someone stealing your identity and AI? To me, it's the same thing. How do you get it back? That's why being verified is important, and we're verified on everything. So when you have that and you have 20 million views and counting, that's important to me.
Brian, what do you do when you're not watching movies? What are some of your hobbies, some of your interests outside of the movie world?
Well, that's a hard one because I'm always watching movies. Movies go out throughout the year, every Wednesday, every Friday. So I'm always getting links sent to me. So imagine if I didn't watch it for 2 days. The thing is, I love to watch movies. It gives me a chance to think. I know for 2 hours or 3 hours, if I go to the movie theater, I can turn my phone around and I know it's ringing, I know it's vibrating, but I can get into the movie still, if that makes sense. Even when it comes to reading a book, I can't read the book inside the house. I actually have to go outside to the park, get on a plane, airport, a bus to read the movie because that's just my way to do it because inside the house I'll be distracted, if that makes sense. So I'll put on a movie, in other words, when I should be reading someone's book. So that's how I have to do it. And I stay consistent by doing that. And that's what separates me from everybody else because I'm very, very consistent and I'm determined. And I do all of this without any coffee. I don't drink coffee because it's about staying ahead of people, but also helping people who need an opportunity to shine, if that makes sense. If you're not helping people, to me, it's cause and effect. You've got to help people. You had someone on your show, Angelica Robles. By me helping Angelica, I'm so proud of where she is today. Look where she is today. It's because she listened to us. She came to our events. She hung out to our special events that no one else would be invited to. And so when you could start to command $20,000 per speak, and you're an international best-selling author, and you're getting your TV, documentary, and movie made on you because of what we did, that's what it's all about. That's what makes me happy. Can I do that with other people? Yeah, I'm already doing it with my second person.
So, what advice would you have for anyone that may be in their early career days, aspiring to become part of Hollywood in whatever role or function they may aspire to get involved in the industry that relates to movies? Any specific advice or insights that you would have for them?
Yeah, I would say this: don't come to Hollywood unless you're ready. Have a year's month of money set away because one, it's expensive to live, which is why everybody's moving out of California. Two, if you're that actor, go on, study Broadway, do your local plays, keep doing those plays because the best actors who came from either England or Australia started on the stage. They all did. Whatever you want to learn, the earlier you know what you want to do, the better, because you'll be laser focused, if that makes sense. And then it's about being consistent. And the other thing is, it's going to happen when it happens. It's not going to happen in just like, oh, it's going to happen in 3 years. What if it takes 5 years? Would you still do it? It's about being consistent, and it is hard work. Nothing is easy. I am convinced of this. What have we done that's easy? It takes hard work to do everything. So as long as you know that and being consistent and getting everything done, you're going to be okay.
When you're looking at the world of Hollywood and we see wonderful human beings, and at the same time, we see very successful individuals that are struggling with addiction and other types of mental health issues. What advice would you have for someone that is entering or aspiring to enter and ensure that they don't actually end up on the negative road?
Well, here's the thing. If you're that actor, a lot of them did it to be famous. They don't understand what comes with that. I understand what comes to that for someone who does not want to be famous. I never wanted to be that actor, that director, that writer. Never. My job is I always wanted to be in the world of helping promote you on what you do and making you look good, not doing one and done. If I like you, I'm going to be promoting you until the end of, till you die. Nobody does that. And then the other thing is, it takes a lot of hard work on doing things. You've got to be prepared for the long run, and most people aren't. And then if you want to be famous, well, is your fame going to last for 2 years, or do you want it to last for 20 years? And then if you got mental health problems, and I know, and I've talked to a lot of people who are famous till this day have mental health problems. You're not taking your medicine, and you don't take it for a week. Oh, I don't need it anymore. I'm good. That's not going to work. Look what happened to Matthew Perry, one of the nicest guys out there, but he wanted to be famous. There's articles on that. And the thing is, just because you want to be famous, those problems don't go away. So they're not prepared for that. And a lot of people aren't even prepared for fame. And all of a sudden they go, oh, I didn't expect this to happen. Well, you said you wanted it. Here it is. So a lot of people aren't prepared for that type of fame.
What role do you believe social media plays when it comes to fame?
Social media is good and it's bad. You can do a lot of things. You can create something out of your own. Think of what Taylor Swift did. She started doing her own thing. She started making something out of her own. Same thing with Queen Bee, as she's known now, and Beyonce. She started doing her own thing. She came from Houston, Texas. She was in Destiny's Child. Her dad was her manager for a while, but she started doing her own thing. So for us, for Movie Reviews and More and the Dreamweaver Arts and the Artist Ranch, I put stuff on. When this interview comes out, I'm going to put it on 13 different sites for one. And I'm going to continue to put it up. And then I'm going to talk about it on our live show. That's got 2.4 million views and counting. And talk about it again. And then I'm going to have you on our show. That's what we do when it comes to these things. And oh, by the way, we're booked 4 months in advance. Always happen. I love booking my own shows. And then we go straight to December. It's my determination. It's my will. And it's being consistent and being happy.
Yes, happiness is an important factor. So moving forward, since I sense your passion, your joy, and your high level of desire to really have a positive impact on all these amazing artists, how do you see yourself moving forward in the future? Are there some projects or some aspirations that you can share with us?
Think of this. Think of Disneyland, Sundance Film Festival. So when it comes to things like that, it's also Disneyland has Marvel, Pixar, and Star Wars. You can go see it all in one place. For the Dreamweaver Arts and the Dreamweaver Artist Ranch, everything is going to be on our ranch. So if you're lucky enough to be invited to our ranch, don't be surprised when you see Sylvester Stallone there, or you see Arnold Schwarzenegger there, or if you see Oprah there, and you see one of the best chefs in the world from Europe, or if you have one of the best companies coming from China. You leave the politics outside the door and come and have a great time to see everything that's being built up. Good, healthy food, soil that's never been contaminated, no fracking, not had a fire on it. Taking the water from the cloud and having water, because if you don't have the water rights, and if you don't have food, you're not going to survive. Dreamweaver has all of those things. We started putting this together in 2018.
So, what are the ambitions to make it bigger, better?
Less. Less is more. Smaller is better. Being too big is not good. Because what happens, the bigger you have, the more you've got to feed that giant. All the studios are in debt. They're never getting out of debt. Dreamweaver will never be in debt because we're self-reliant. We're not reliant on a bank. We're not reliant on the government. We're helping those artists that need to be helped, teaching them the basics of, if you've never played chess before, if you've never painted before, if you've never done crochet, teaching them how to do that stuff. If you've never been to the library, if you've never seen a VHS tape, or if you've never played with vinyl. All of these things you can learn in one place, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with them. They just went out of style, or something was supposedly took in place that was better. That was never the case. The library will never go out of style, but now you got people banning books. So if you're going to ban Bambi or The Lord of the Rings because you may not like it, well, you're taking something away from someone that may inspire them. Think of all the people who saw Star Wars, who are working for Star Wars or Marvel or DC Comics now. Remember when those people who might have read comic books and they were made fun of? They're not made fun of now, are they? Look at Comic-Con. 125,000 people go to Comic-Con in San Diego. They can't all be nuts, right?
What could we do collectively to bring more joy to this world? And do you believe that movies play a role in that regard?
Yes, movies and music. Some people are touched and inspired by music, and I always tell people this. What happy song has someone gone on to that became a hit? Even Don't Worry, Be Happy by Bobby McFee, which he hates that song, was his number one song. He wrote it, just out of spirit, don't worry, be happy. He didn't care about it. He hates that song. But people go to that concert to hear him sing that song. You think he wants to sing it? No, but it's his number one song. So it's one of those things where if you're not happy, you got to find something that makes you happy. Because if you're not happy, you're not going to attract those great people around you. So for me, it's always about cause and effect, helping everybody that you can, and let the effects come back from God and the universe. And the other thing is, I do believe in world peace. It took me 16 years to believe in that, but I believe in that because I'm a Buddhist. I started practicing Buddhism in 1989. That's 30 something years ago. I haven't stopped. So when I'm praying for world peace and I'm praying for the happiness of my friends, or I'm praying for someone who has cancer, I want their name. I'm specifically going to channel to where they may have it, whether it's in their head or in their heart, in their body. And I'm going to do that twice a day. That's what I can do to make somebody happy, to change the world. Leave the world in a better place than when you found it. So when I go to visit somebody, I always leave them better than when I found them.
Can you tell us why you decided to become a Buddhist?
Well, when I got to California, I knew I was going to become something, but I didn't know. I mean, I could have gone into the world of Scientology, but that was going to cost me like over $1,000. Becoming a Buddhist didn't cost me anything. So think about this. Herbie Hancock, John Austin, Tina Turner, Patrick Duffy, who was on Dallas. We were all Buddhism in the same chapter. It was an entertainment chapter. And I learned from them. Who is one of the most iconic women in the world of music? Tina Turner. Not one bad person came out to say anything bad with her. She was practicing Buddhism right up until she passed away. I think what she did when no one wanted to sign her getting out of an abusive relationship. You can see a movie. What's love got to do with it? Going back to movies. Everything is based back to a movie or a song, right? No one wanted to give her a chance. We were all in the same chapter. Patrick Duffy. When he took 45 minutes of me telling me what I need to do in the middle of the street at night, it was at 9, quarter to 10 at night, you don't forget things like this. To this day, he and I are friends. Those things are really, really important to me. So you're supposed to pass it on. So I pass it on in a different way by inviting people on our show, by showing them different things that will help their lives specific. If you got a mental issue, I know to sit down with you. If you've gone to grief, sometimes you just need to sit there and hold somebody's hand and not say something. A lot of time is they just want to be with someone, but you don't have to say anything. And a lot of people don't know these things. All these things I learned from movies.
If I understand correctly, Brian, the way you look at life and some of the lessons learned, it's through some of these movies that it truly inspired you to look at the world and the possibilities with new eyes.
Yeah, because movies come up with stuff. Think of James Bond. Going back to Sean Connery, they came up with some of the most iconic gadgets that you would ever see. Think of Back to the Future. They came up with stuff that people still talk about, Michael J. Fox, and look and watch his documentaries still. And when you come up with these things like that, it was Star Wars, phasers, Star Trek. A phaser is really your cell phone. Where do you think all these things came from? Movies. I'm sure you've seen some of these movies, right?
Absolutely. And it's true when you're looking back at some older movies and you're seeing some of the gadgets, let's just call them gadgets that they used to use and now which are actually part of our lives. It's quite fascinating. I wonder if teleportation would actually happen one day, that we've seen in some movies.
How do you know it's not already happening?
Well, scientifically, to my knowledge and the research I've done, it's not currently happening, but possibly it is. I just have to dig deeper.
I would tell you this: go to the History Channel and watch the universe on the History Channel and watch Ancient Aliens. The stuff, technology has always been there. Remember what I said about the technology for Dreamweaver? You're going to see technology that you didn't know existed. I've seen these things, being the only one that broadcasts every year in January at the CES show, January 2nd. Next year is January 9th. I'm the only one that broadcasts. I get first dibs at some of the best technology in the world. I walk around to every single booth. So when I'm the only one in the industry, in press, who goes to the Toy Fest, do you not think I don't walk around every single booth to see what's there that other people have never seen before? That's why I get first dibs of stuff.
So, what are some of the future inventions from everything that you've seen that have really blown you away most recently?
Well, capturing water from the clouds, it's not new. The government's been doing it for a while. You're going to always have a water shortage. You're going to have water that doesn't need to be someplace that's flooded, and you might have it in Los Angeles when it's flooding in Louisiana. That's always going to be the case now. But how do you flip flop that? The climate has changed, whether people believe it or not. All I care about is there's a solution to solve problems on things. You may not know it exists, but I know it exists because I've seen it. I'm talking to the people who invented it. Just because you don't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. There just not be maybe a way to get it out there yet, but it does exist.
Oh, I truly believe in human ingenuity and creativity. And if we're really looking at the evolution of technology, of science, of medicine over the last couple of years, we're certainly on an accelerated path that leads me to believe that the future is going to be filled with many, many wonderful inventions that hopefully will alleviate some of the biggest challenges that humanity is currently facing. So I think the future is exciting. At least that's how I look at it.
Everything that we need here is on planet Earth. You just have to find it. If you've got cancer, how do you know the remedy's not in the Amazon forest? Because it is. How do you know it wasn't created before? You can go to ancient aliens and see stuff. The Romans created towers and undercity cities and things like that before. Think of a library that has iconic books, and if it goes up, that might be the only library that has those iconic books. So that history is lost. There's a solution for everything. You just have to find it, but you also have to know where to look.
Any final thoughts on experiencing more joy in life?
Well, I always say this. I tell people to have a good night tonight, a better day tomorrow. If you see someone without a smile, please give them one of yours because the world needs it. That's what I say every Tuesday.
Wonderful. I encourage everyone to basically stay tuned and continue watching your shows, which are absolutely amazing. And look forward to hear about all the wonderful things that you'll be doing in the future, Brian. It's been an immense pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
And I thank you for taking the time because you didn't have to do this. And that's why I always say yes to people, because I feel the exact same way. Give people the opportunity. That's all they need sometimes.
Thank you.